bring up contestant number 5, Jared Malakouti. Live the language. Live the language, Jared Malakouti.
What is the best thing you've ever done? Is it graduating from college? Or getting your dream job? It could be a long-awaited vacation or a single accomplishment. But if you had to narrow it down and ask yourselves, if it could be just one thing, what would be the best thing you've ever done? When I was just a confused, frustrated 14-year-old freshman in high school, completely infatuated by the Latin girls, one day I turned to my Spanish teacher and asked, "Mr. Gonzalez, how can I get at these Latin chicks?" He turned to me and he said, "Well, you can start by learning Spanish." So I decided that was all the motivation I ever needed to get to my 8 a.m. class every day at 7:45. The best thing I ever did was learn to speak Spanish. Now, what does that mean, to learn a language? Is it spending 5 minutes on Duolingo a day? Is it packing up your things and moving to South America? My mom used to always say, language is an art, not a science. That's because language requires nuance, context, and creativity. There are millions of ways to express something through a language, and that's what makes them so beautiful. Today, what I would like to do is share some stories of how learning a language has helped me and how it can help other people. After all, why are we all here? We all want to be more effective communicators and comfortable speaking in front of others, right? I can tell you from firsthand experience that when you find the courage to say those first few words, to go up to a native speaker and say, "Hola, ¿cómo estás?" Your hands will shake. Your heart will beat out of your chest. But when you find the courage to say those words, you will see the gratitude in their faces, that you're taking a genuine interest in who they are and where it is that they come from. And that's what speaking the language is. It's understanding people on a deeper level. It's finding the value in the richness of immigrants. A few years ago, I decided I needed to get some practical experience speaking Spanish in the real world. So I decided to go salsa dancing. My first night on the dance floor, I'm standing there against the wall, and I see this woman across the stage in a beautiful red dress. So I muster up some courage, unbuttoned my shirt a few times, popped up my collar, and said, "Señorita, ¿quieres bailar conmigo?" And she said, "Yes. Yes." Now, for me personally, whenever someone asks, "How many languages do you speak?" I often hesitate because the number doesn't matter. It's all relative. But I often say something along the lines of, "Well, I swear the best in Farsi, I tell the best jokes in English, and I'm the most romantic in Spanish." That's because speaking a language is like taking on a new identity. You can literally transform into a rico suave salsa dancer overnight. Think of all the immigrants who come to this country every year, and imagine how we can facilitate their assimilation process by speaking their language. How we could make the transition for them easier. A few weeks ago, my dad calls me up. My dad, he's this old hairy Persian guy with a gold chain and too much cologne. He calls me and he says, Jared, I just met somebody named Maria. I want you to tell her in Spanish that I want to go have dinner with her tomorrow. Here. He passes the phone and she answers and she goes, "Hola, señor, buenas tardes." I'm like, "Oh, God. Hola, señora, mi papá dice que la quiere sacar mañana a cenar. ¿Está libre?" And she goes, "Oh, sí, tell him I'm free tomorrow at 7. Passes the phone like, Jared, did you tell her? And I'm like, "Yeah, Bobo, I told you." He's like, "Oh, okay, good. And then they ended up having a beautiful dinner at Olive Garden the next evening. Now, seriously speaking, some of the most gratifying moments I've had speaking the language have been translating for the people in the line at Macy's. it's been telling Mexican immigrants that they don't have to fear deportation because there are certain laws in this country that protect them. Over the past couple years, I've had the opportunity to work as a volunteer interpreter with the Justice and Diversity Center of San Francisco. They pair up pro bono attorneys with volunteer interpreters working on cases of eviction and deportation. One of the cases that comes to mind was this woman from Nicaragua being forced out of her home. And as I stood in the conference room before the judge and the attorneys on either side, I listened to the sincerity in this woman's voice and the desperation about her children who depended on her. And the sincerity really broke me down. After the meeting, the judge decided in her favor. She came up to me, tears streaming down her face, gave me the biggest hug of gratitude. And that was one of the most rewarding experiences I've had speaking the language. She went from being silent to having a voice. Fellow Toastmasters, why should you learn a language? Because the advantages are limitless. And once you start, you'll spend your whole lives wondering why you didn't begin sooner. There's a quote from Nelson Mandela, which I heard, that I think really sums up why I'm so passionate about this. It reads, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you speak to a man in his language, that goes to his heart. If we learn a language for no other reason than to better understand and relate to people, we will be much happier individuals. Earlier on, I asked you to think about, what is the best thing you've ever done? Now I'd like you to ask yourselves, what is the best thing you've ever done for another person? Mr. Toastmaster.